Xinyan's been officially revealed. We know she's been coming out for a while now. Wow, how good is she? Is she being overhyped, oversold by a lot of players and content creators and posters and things like that? What is she really going to be good at? Let's take a deep dive into what we have with her. I think a lot of you guys are going to be kind of let down by her in a lot of ways. If you're using her wrong, she can be pretty powerful in the right team compositions. That's what we're going to be going over today. We're going to be talking about her skills, what she's good at, what weapons you guys should be looking at for her, as well as what sort of teams that she shines in. We're going to go through that as quickly as possible. So let's dive into it. Obviously, for you guys, Xinyan here is going to be a Claymore Pyro character. She's a support type damage dealer, and she does have some special things that only she can do for you in Genshin Impact. And she's got some unique builds that no one else can take advantage of with her. So let's go ahead and check it out. Traditional normal attack Claymore user, slower swing speed, 4 consecutive attacks is her normal attack. Charge attack is the hit finisher. Nothing super crazy there. No uniqueness about her in that regard. Now her elemental skill here is going to be Sweeping Fervor. This is her support skill. So this is going to give you a defense barrier that scales based on the amount of enemies that you hit. If you hit 0 to 1 enemies, it's going to give you the level 1 version. 2 enemies will give you the level 2 version, and 3 enemies will give you the level 3 version. This will be changed and made easier to hit the higher tier shields with a certain ascension. It's going to be her first ascension, and we will cover that. But in addition to that, it's going to give you a defense barrier, and this barrier is going to scale with her defense percent. So that's going to be the main thing that she's scaling with defense. The rest of her stuff is scaling off of attack. So keep that in mind keep that in the back of your mind as we talk about builds for her. The other thing that it does do is when you are using this ability, when the shield is unleashed, it infuses Xinyan with Pyro Element. So keep that in mind as well. It's going to be something that we're talking about when it comes to team compositions on top of that. So with everything else, though, we now have her Elemental Burst. Elemental Burst coming in. Huge damage here, actually. It's got some pretty nice numbers. As you can see, talent level 6 here, 477% on a 15-second cooldown, as long as you can get that 60 energy cost. But in addition to that physical damage, it also will do like a pyro damage dot that lasts for 2 seconds there. Much smaller number, though, on that pyro version of that damage, 56%. It also has a 15-second cooldown. I know, I want to get that in there, reiterate that. That's a very low cooldown. As long as you can get that 60 energy cost, you can be looking for some energy recharge for this character. Also, her shield duration, I want to reiterate because there's going to be something that will also add a shield, possibly on her elemental burst here. Her shield duration is 12-second duration on an 18-second cooldown, so it's not 100% uptime, but her elemental burst can solve that once we start getting into some of her other stuff. So let's check out that right now. Passive talents, she's got the defense cooking talent, so you can get, double the cooking stuff. Big whoop there. But the show goes on even without an audience. This is the thing that's going to give you that higher level shield. So you'll get the level 2 shield now if you hit 1 enemy. You'll get the level 3 shield now if you hit 2 enemies. So much easier to get that higher level shield there. And then her final ascension, now that's rock and roll. Characters shielded by Sweeping Fervor get a 15% increased physical damage bonus. So she's going to be a really good support for physical damage teams. Now this can apply to her, but remember, when she's got her own shield on, she's infused with pyro damage, and pyro damage is not physical damage. So from what we can see right now, as we're looking at the information we have in front of us, that's not going to affect her in any way, shape, or form. But what you can do is apply her shield and swap out to someone else, because it doesn't imbue anyone infused with her shield, and it imbues her when she uses her elemental skill for a period of time there. Now her constellations here, the big one that I want to talk about is Constellation 2. Constellation 1's also pretty alright. Upon scoring a critical hit, increases your attack speed of her normal and charge attack by 12% for 5 seconds. This occurs once every 5 seconds. The big one here, though, is Impromptu Opening here. And if you guys are a big fan of Xinyan, I think this is the one that you really want to go to and get based on what this is right now. If this is what it is when she's released, it's giving you a lot of cool options here. So it makes her Elemental Burst, Rift, Revolutions. It's the physical damage part, so the big burst damage has 100% crit hit rate, and it forms a level 3 shield when cast. So why is that good? Why is that good? It means you can do some really cool stuff. It means you can build her for attack percent, crit hit damage percent, energy recharge percent, and defense percent. You can focus on those 4 main stats, get gear for those 4 main stats, and her big burst damage effect is going to be the elemental burst. So you swap into her, big burst damage, you apply that shield, you swap out. You do this in like a superconduct team composition. We'll go over some good characters for that. And so in a superconduct team, you have them put superconduct on, you make sure her thing is a physical damage attack, boom, big physical damage, gives you the shield, so you're now defensive, you're now fire imbued. If you use your E as another way to imbue yourself there. But now that you have that shield on, remember it increases physical damage by 15%. So then you swap into your Razor or something, give him 15% more increased damage there. With that shield on, you can do some cool things with that. Now, her other constellations here, Wildfire Rhythm, Sweeping Fervors, swing damage decreases their physical resistance by another 15%. So you have some physical imperil there for her for 12 seconds. Another good way to put her in a superconduct-esque style physical damage team. And her final one is Rocking in a Flaming. And this one's going to be a different sort of a build because you're not going to be able to focus on a 0% crit hit rate build. This is why I think a lot of you guys might get drawn in a lot of directions here because she's a really weird unit to build. She's very greedy. And this makes it so her charge attacks gain damage bonus, attack bonus equal to 50% of her defense. So very similar to like Noelle. However, not similar to Noelle is she only is getting 50% of that a defense to attack conversion. Like high-end C6 Noelles, they get 110, 120%, 125% of their defense converted into attack there. 50% is not enough. You'd be like, okay, I'm just going to build a full defense Xinyan and do some good damage. It's not going to happen. You're going to need to build attack percent, defense percent, energy recharge, crit hit chance, and crit hit damage. And that's just too greedy. That's so greedy. You're not going to be able to maximize all of those stats on your artifacts and equipment right now. It's just not going to happen. But you can focus on some of the other stuff. Yes, you can also put her not in a superconduct team. You can put her in some sort of a melt-esque team, right? With that 0 energy recharge build, make sure you use her elemental shield, get her attacks imbued to pyro element, put melt on somebody with the cryo element, prepare for the melt, and then hit them with her elemental burst there. And that's gonna be huge damage because you're gonna hit that melt, get that 200% bonus there. It's a lot of damage as well, and it's guaranteed crit. Guaranteed crit. That's the cool thing, is your burst damage dealer. You can build them for 0% crit, and it will guarantee crit. So you just maximize that critical hit damage, maximize that attack percent. And then if you want to see some elemental recharge, as well as some defense percent to make her shields a little bit better there. So that's going to be Xinyan here. Now, a couple of the weapons that you can look at here for her, she is a Claymore user. Obviously, the Wolf's Gravestone is one of the best ones in the game. You guys already know that. A lot of the times, though, if you are using a Claymore user that's like a main damage dealer, you have the Wolf Gravestone. It's going on them. It's not going to go on her. So while it is a good option, probably not going to be put on her. Now, there is going to be a future weapon, the Unforged. We've seen the Catalyst version of this already. It's just like the Catalyst version. Increases your shield strength. It helps her out there. It also gives you an attack percent buff. Not a lot of other characters out there really right now want to go for this weapon. It is attack percent substat here. So it is going to work very well with her. She's trying to build attack percent, a little bit of defense, but mainly attack percent crit hit damage. If you're going for that C2 0% crit hit chance build, that's a fantastic thing to do there. Now for other weapons, Prototype Animus, the good old tried and true and tested Prototype Animus, attack percent Claymore, very strong there. Now if you want a more defensive approach, you could do the White Blind defense percent substat. You're not going to hit nearly as much attack percent, and you're not really going to be gaining any sort of benefit offensive wise from that defense percent unless you are Constellation 6. If you're Constellation 6, you have like a high refined White Blind, right? You can get some value out of it, but until then, this is going to lower your damage by a large margin. You're going to get some defense percent from the secondary stat here. You're going to get some defense percent and attack percent from the special passive, but you're giving up something like the Prototype Animus's attack percent and the proc. It's just in the higher attack base on the Prototype Animus. It's just not really worth it for you guys there. Now for teammates and team members, I think she's actually going to have this weird way. If you want to cover all your basics here, you can put her in a superconduct team, or you can make her like part of a melt team where she does melt damage. Remember, we talked about you can choose to leave her elemental burst and attacks as physical damage. As long as you don't use your E and then attack, you can use your E before you swap out, or you can choose to use her as a pyro elementally imbued character. If you use your E first, put up your shield, and then attack. So this sort of team composition is going to set you up to do either or. And the first thing I want to talk about here is our boy Bennett. Bennett and her are going to make they're going to be a phenomenal pyro support duo. right? Bennett's got the ability to heal you up to 70% HP. He's got that extra attack buff. Then Xinyan has the shields for your team. On top of that, it absorbs the fire damage too from certain enemies out there, and it gives that physical damage 15% damage dealt buff on top of that. So you have the attack buff from Bennett, the physical damage buff from Xinyan. That's a match made in heaven for a Superconduct team. And so what you can do here is you can take a cryo character like Diona. You don't want to take Chongyun in a team like this, because remember, Chongyun's E leaves that field behind, and it's going to cause your attacks to be cryo damage. So that could ruin your setup as well. Like I said, you could ruin yourself with this character. You're not going to like her if you use it the wrong way. Diona, though, or even like Kea as an all-star, you already have your heals, you already have your shields, so you don't need to use Diona. Well, you can use Chi-Chi if you want. She's a 5-star, but you take anyone other than Chongyun as a cryo character as your Superconduct setup character. Either one of those will work fantastically well for you. And then you can take in your character that wants to be part of the Superconduct team. Everyone's favorite Superconduct boy is Razor. Razor's a fantastic Superconductor. He's in there for that physical damage. Superconduct lowers their physical resistance. He wants to do that big physical damage. And then luckily for you, Xinyan has that physical damage increase on her elemental skill, on her barrier. So keep that in mind as well. It's going to help out your Razor on top of that. So you set up Razor to do things. You put the cryo buff on them, all right, with the Diona or Kea or whoever it is that you're using. Then you swap in to your Xinyan, you light them up, you have the barrier ready to roll, you swap into Razor, you crock that Superconduct, you do your stuff with Razor, and then when you're ready to roll for your big damage on Xinyan, if you are in Superconduct, you can just swap into her Elemental Burst, right? Do all this while your Bennett's ult's rolling out there for that big attack buff, 500, 600 extra attack. Elemental Burst with Xinyan, it's going to re-put up that barrier. Again, if you have that Constellation 2 that we talked about, then you can just swap right back into the other characters and keep that ball rolling and just keep going in there over and over and over. And the way that I like to use Bennett, if you've seen the Bennett guide out there, I love him on the set that gives you that elemental recharge energy for your whole party. It's so good. It's one of the best things that I can do with him. Built him for max energy recharge and HP. He's got that barrier down. 12 out of the 15 seconds, only 3-second downtime. It's so powerful. He's constantly regenerating HP. It's just good. So if I was to get Xinyan, this is probably the sort of team that I would aim to get her in, a Superconduct team. And then on top of that, remember, you can still melt with this team with her if you wanted to. You can still melt. You can still set up to melt. You have your cryo character to set up the cryo debuff on everyone. Then you swap into Xinyan. And while you're imbued with your E, you hit him off your elemental burst and melt him that way as well with that guaranteed crit hit rate. It's so good. Now, what about artifact sets here, guys? Some artifact sets, obviously, the Gladiator set's the easiest set it and forget it set. If you're using her, right, without a specialty build, you're doing crit hit rate and attack percent and defense percent. You're trying to get all the stats on her. This is going to give her 35% more normal attack damage there. If you're using her as your main attacker, go for this. However, I think something that you guys are going to be wanting to use instead, the Retracing Bolide sets. This increases your shield strength by 35%. So this is going to make her even a better support than before. In addition to that, while you're protected by a shield, you get 40% more normal in charged attack damage. However, if you're going for that set bonus, that is the best thing for that build we were talking about, where you can build her for attack percent, energy recharge, defense percent, crit hit damage, and then just have her swap in and do a bunch of damage. One of the sets that you guys should be looking at is the Noblest Oblige 2-piece bonus. This increases your elemental burst by 20% damage. So that's going to be free bonus damage there. And you can combine that with the Bloodstained Chivalry set, which increases your physical damage by an additional 25%. I think this is where a lot of you guys are going to be really seeing a big deal here with that 0% crit hit chance build if you have her at C2, because you can just stack on that crit hit damage, stack on that attack percent, and just get these really large numbers, get extra bonus physical damage, get extra bonus elemental burst damage, and just go in there with that Superconduct team and actually just wreck house with that. Now, on top of that, if you're not a part of that plan, you do want her to do damage though, the Bloodstained Chivalry set could be pretty good here. On top of that as well, especially if you want to bring her in as your support character, like your cleanup character in a lot of things, and she still gets the physical damage 25%. That's cool. If you don't care for the 4-piece here, which I do think might be useful in some situations here, you could combine this 2-piece, the Bloodstained set, with like the 2-piece of the Gladiator set for just some extra attack percent. But the 4-piece here is pretty interesting because she does have right? That Constellation we talked about, C1, if you have Constellation 1 with her, when you crit hit, it increases the attack speed of your normal and charge attack by 12% for 5 seconds. So if you combine that with a Bloodstain set, you defeat an opponent with a crit hit, you not only have a 12% faster attack speed with your normal attack and charge attack, but your charge attack goes up by an additional 50% damage, and its stamina cost is reduced to 0, which could be very interesting. And if you have her all the way to C6 and you are going for that super greedy, hard to do build, it's way out there. We also get 50% of your defense as attack at C6, so you can get in there faster charge attack, 50% more bonus charge attack damage, and 50% of your defense going into your attack for 10 seconds. And as long as you can keep defeating enemies, that's going to be awesome. That being said, I think that's more of a pipe dream sort of thing there, because higher end game stuff like the Abyss 10, 11, 12, enemies they're just fountains of HP, and it's really hard to make something like the 4-piece on the Bloodstain set worth it. So if you're going for big burst damage on her elemental burst, I think that's the easiest build to take advantage of. Literally, there's one stat you don't even need if you have Cease 2 on her. You get the 20% burst and the 25% physical damage. You put her in a Superconduct team, you make sure that that elemental burst is staying physical damage, and you just wreck people with it, and it's going to be a fun sight to behold. And she's got that nice Superconduct team synergy where she increases physical damage, all of that stuff. It's just too strong. It makes too much sense to put her in a team composition like that. So if we get our hands on her, that's probably what we're going to be trying to do, is a Superconduct team with Xinyan. Let me know what you guys are going to be doing with her, if you're interested in pulling for her, if you guys like her voice actress or not. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's all right there. I just like the rock style aspect of this character. Hopefully we can get access to her pretty easily there. Hopefully we can get C2. That'd be pretty nice as well. So if you guys want to see more Genshin Impact content, make sure you check out the other content on the channel to get informed about now and current and future events, as well as the past events on top of that, right? The Bennett guides in there as well. So with that being said, thank you guys for joining us here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, guys.